This video is brought to you by Patreon supporter Alex.
Hello and welcome. No surprises with this one. It is a HOLOSUN, graciously sent in by brand new Patreon provider Alex, who reached out to me and said, hey, look, I got a HOLOSUN 503 and a 3x magnifier. Do you want to review them? And instantaneously I said yes, because I've wanted to get my hands on the smaller versions of the HOLOSUN as well as more magnifiers, and to get them both at the same time is awesome. So Alex, thank you very much for being gracious enough to reach out to me and offer up your optics for review. Now, this review is going to come up pretty quick because Alex is in the military and he's going overseas soon, so I want to get this back to him in safe hands before he does. So, right off the bat, we're first off missing the top sleeve. It happens, but we still have the standard HOLOSUN box. There is our model number on the side, HS503G with the ACSS reticle, which is something I also wanted to get my hands on because I think it's going to work out great, especially in conjunction with a magnifier. Not really going to go over the box because it's a typical HOLOSUN box. All of you have seen my other reviews. So without further ado, let's crack this open and see what we have inside. First thing we're going to see is our facts guide, which is just basically how it all works. That's about it. And yep, that's about it. Interesting to note, this is your front glass. Take a look at that specific angle that you see there. I bet we're going to see that on this one. A little silica gel. And right off the bat, this might look a little bit different from what you might have seen on some other HOLOSUNs. And that is the mount. The standard mount is over here. He was nice enough to send this in. We'll go over it really briefly, but not spend too much time on this because it's just a regular standard mount. I'm more curious to see what he has on this, which is, without any surprise, a ScalarWorks SW0110, the same mount that was on Sparks' MRO that he had sent me many months ago. And here it is. Right off the bat, this thing is extremely lightweight and very small. Size-wise, it's about the same as the Romeo 5, but unlike the Romeo 5, this thing is around $225. The Romeo 5 is like around $150 or so. So kind of, sort of in the similar ballpark, but this is significantly more expensive. 50% more expensive, in fact. But anyway, let's take a look at this real quick after we look and see what else is inside the box. Low profile base plate if you're not going to be using this on an AR style rifle. If you could be using this on a regular style carbine, bolt action gun, something like that. And that's about it. Allen key riser. I think this is for the magnifier, so I'll actually be putting that to the side. And that's basically it for the box. So let's take a look at this little beautiful optic. I'm going to take off this bikini cap, which is nicely included from HOLOSUN, and it is branded, as you can see there, front and rear. This only goes on one way. The front is a little bit larger dish than the rear. As you can see, it matches up with the optic. And, well, let's start at the base. Got 4 mounting screws. 2 have access through the bottom of the mount there and through the front over here. Mount, I'm not going to get too involved in, other than it's beautiful. It's a beautiful piece of kit. I don't know what this mount goes for off the top of my head, but whatever it is, I'm sure it's worth it because this wheel alone is fantastic. But again, as you can see, there is no slot here for a coin to really leverage that down, but I'm sure they engineered that for a reason. While we're on this side, we might as well take a look at under the battery cover and see what it looks like under there, because this has been a real pet peeve of mine lately. HOLOSUN is nice enough to at least include a coin slot here. Ooh, that is interesting. So the spring looks like almost just like rides on top. All right, now I think there's supposed to be a clip there, but the clip might be missing. I could ask Alex on that one, but nevertheless, this is a very beefy spring. There's a lot of tension on that, and it is gold plated, even though I'm sure that really doesn't mean that much. Standard CR2032 battery, and it is not captive by any means. It just slits inside, and then the cap goes on. There is a very large O-ring that you can see on the inside of the shoulder, and the inside of the cap is not really beveled, but that should be fine. That spring has a lot of tension on it. Screwing this down, and there's a lot of positive pressure from that O-ring. So I wouldn't worry too much about leakage. However, I would worry about this O-ring ripping and failing at some point because it is not recessed in a nice chamfered shoulder or anything like that. It's just putting square pressure up against it, and rubber on aluminum backed with more aluminum, especially with a decent anodizing like this, it's not really going to slide all too well. You're putting a lot of pressure on that O-ring every time you go to tension this because you're having a large surface area, a large friction surface area, and you might rip that O-ring over time. Next, let's move on to the elevation and windage knobs. In standard fashion, there we go. So up and right, and up and right. So they're the exact same cap, so there's no worry about having to confuse these two, and they give you both directions for windage and elevation and direction under the cap, which is very nice. You also use the cap to index that key into that slot to adjust it. If I can get my big fingers on this cap well enough. There we go. Very positive clicks. A lot of resistance on that. A lot of resistance. Way more than any other optic like this that I've tested. That requires a lot of force. Look at how white the tip of my thumbnail is from putting pressure on that. I mean, you'll never, ever in a million years have to worry about this thing getting jostled and losing its zero because of the turrets moving. Very impressive how tight these are. Maybe a little bit too tight. Be very careful how you adjust these. I'm sure it might say it in the book somewhere, but there is no marking on this to indicate how much you are moving at what distance. But that's acceptable for a little red dot like this. So these knobs are very, very tight, but you have proper tools to adjust it in the field, and you could use a flathead screwdriver if you so choose so. There is an O-ring at the base of this pocket on both the windage and elevation caps to provide a fair amount of weather sealing, I would say. Now, it is true that there is no solar panel on this optic, just the one CR2032 battery, and that's perfectly fine. But this is a $225-ish optic, and it looks very similar on the surface to a Romeo 5, which, like I said earlier, is about $150-ish or so. So what really makes this different from a Romeo 5? Well, this being the ACSS, that makes all the difference in the world. Let's take a look. This is my first time taking a look at the ACSS reticle, and I have to say, without using a magnifier, it does look a little busy, but not overly so to the point where you're lost in translation. You have a very large semicircle that's open at 6 o'clock, and it's very reminiscent of an EOTech or other HOLOSUNs, which I quite like. But then you have this little chevron in the middle and then 3 dots underneath it, and I quite like it. However, without a magnifier, it does look a little blotchy. It almost looks like they're all connected. However, with the magnifier, as you can see here, this is with the 3x HoloSun magnifier that was included from Alex, you can see that there are clear delineations between all 4, the chevron and the 3 subsequent dots, and it looks extremely good. Pretty sharp lines. I'm not going to start talking about the magnifier in this video, but you can see it's pretty damn impressive. So that's what you're getting. You're getting that reticle right there. Now, if it's not for you, you can get many other options, but that is why you buy one of these, or at least this one in particular. Now, remember how I said earlier in the book that look at the front glass, it's really at a really steep angle? There is no exception here. Just take a look at that. It's a little hard to see, but there's about a 1/4 inch plus recess on that side, and this side's a little bit less than an 1/8 inch, I would say. And they angle it that way so the dot can reflect off of it and straight back. Just note that when you get your hands on this and you see how tilted that glass is, that it is not broken. It is designed like that, just like the MRO. I had actually contacted Sparks after I reviewed it, looking at some of the footage. I'm like, holy cow, did I break it? Like, what's wrong with this? It's just part of the design. And you know what? That's going to conclude this unboxing. Alex, huge thank you. I'm very pleased that you reached out to me and got this out to me as quickly as you did. I'm going to do everything in my power to get this out to you right away. And thank you for your service, and thank all of you very much for watching. See you again next time.
And a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. Without you, this wouldn't be possible.